Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I'm joined by the Killer Bae, Heather Monroe. So, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and honestly, per tradition, we have to start off with asking how the cats are doing. So, how are they doing?
They're doing good. Yeah, had to shut the door, otherwise they would probably be in here like trying to get
I
up
feel
on
that.
everything. But yeah, they've been good.
I feel that because I have two cats myself, and they'll try like pounding on the door, or they'll be in here and then decide halfway through that they want to leave. So, like, I completely understand that.
Yeah, Max likes to be in my lap at all times, and he's like 20 pounds.
Oh
So
my gosh. Well, I'm
yeah.
just saying, if they start pounding on your door, I don't mind a cat cameo. In fact, I welcome it, to be honest with you. So
Yeah,
we'll see what
we'll
happens.
we'll see. He's pretty comfy on his seat
Okay.
outside, so.
Sounds good. But before we get into everything wrestling and all of that, I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit about your time in Los Angeles, as I've discussed with you a little bit before. You initially pursued acting and you acquired your theater and cinema degree. Obviously,
Mhm.
you ended up venturing into wrestling instead later on. But honestly, what about LA and the acting world really struck you or initially appealed to you?
I mean, I wanted to do something in entertainment for as long as I can remember. Like I started doing plays when I was, in elementary school. So I was like, this is the place I have to be if I want to like really pursue it. So I always loved Los Angeles. I always like we'd visit out there and I'd go and I was like, I want to be a part of this. So I just like the vibe of Los Angeles a lot because it's really chill and yeah, just like obviously the weather's
Yeah, well,
gorgeous,
the
but
weather. Would you say you prefer the warm weather? You're in Chicago now, so it's kind of like polar opposites, I feel like now.
yeah. I do prefer like not having to like look at what the weather is like outside before I put my clothes on in the morning. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like, oh, so I have to like put like double socks on when I go outside now.
This is
So
actually
that's always
your
nice.
first winter too, kind of in the Midwest. So like I'm sure Chicago's been getting some snow, I would assume.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Iowa, so
Yes, that's true.
I
That's true.
moved away from it all for many, many years, like 9 years.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been bad yet. I was on tour with a band for 6 weeks, um, mid-October till about Thanksgiving. So I missed a little bit of it, and it hasn't been bad yet. It's just been a little rainy.
Okay.
So
Now,
we'll see.
are we just gonna gloss over the fact that you were now, what capacity were you in with this band? Like what was your role in all of this?
I'm like quote unquote a dancer with them. So the band's called Pussifer, and I actually started with them when I first started wrestling because we were their opening act. It was like a lucha libre
Yeah.
show.
Yes, I remember you
So
talking about this. Yeah, we're
right.
for Santino Bros and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So we went on tour with them back in 2016. Yeah, 2016. Um, and so they started touring again and they were like, "Hey, do you want to go on tour?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." But it's not wrestling this time. It's like performance art, essentially. So I'm like running around the stage like an alien.
Now, do you have like a formal background? I think I would have heard if you had a background at dance, or like what kind of dance skills do you like have to portray? Like,
Um, we're so I do actually have a background in dance, like
okay.
has most kids start in dance when they're younger, but I did
Me.
like right. I did like competitive dance, like competitions and stuff all through up until mid high school. I think I was like
Hmm.
15 and then I joined show choir
Yeah.
instead. So I do have like dance background, but like the dancing, like they call us dancers, but there's like only a couple songs where we're actually dancing and it's not even like choreographed. It's just
Hmm.
like we're just doing whatever. But we're doing performance art basically.
You've been pretty much doing that your whole life. In LA, I know you did a lot of improv student films and pilots during your time there. So, I know obviously you ventured out of it, but can you tell us more about maybe one pleasant or maybe weird experience or gig that you booked there?
Oh man, because I like, you have to start at the bottom and do like
Yes.
some like weird stuff to start. There was this, um, I actually think they might still be around. It's a production called Zoocosis, and they were doing educational, like Discovery Channel was trying to start
Hmm.
doing more online content. So they hired
Yes.
this production company to do kind of educational videos, but this guy was like very, his name was Patrick, and he did
Hmm.
very um artistic type stuff. So I did a couple of things for him, and then they were doing a thing called Fail Lab where they like it was like Mythbusters kind of,
Okay.
but they like did stuff that like a lot of the challenges like the cinnamon challenge and like that kind of stuff. I'm dating myself with this. I feel like the cinnamon
No,
challenge is
no,
so
I, I,
old.
I remember the cinnamon challenge. I'm not that much younger than I'm not that much younger than you, Heather. Okay, I do remember this. A lot of people were dumb in doing it. It was like a trend. It was Vine kind of a lot and like YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is pre Tide Pods. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so we did a whole show. Their season finale was doing these challenges. And so I did a banana and Sprite challenge where I had to eat a banana and then chug a 2 liter of Sprite. And I barfed everywhere, like into a bucket. It was like the weirdest thing I've ever done on camera. And I was like, well, I look back and I'm like, why did I do that?
Is that like kind of I get the cinnamon thing because it's like really dry and like it like the chemicals and whatever. Does that have anything to do with like the potassium mixed with like the carbonation in the Sprite or like
Yeah, and that's like what they did. They like scientifically broke down why these challenges are hard.
oh
So they were like, the reason why she's barfing right now into this
oh my
bucket
God.
is because it doesn't like the chemicals together don't work. And I'm like,
You said never again. Never
yeah.
again. Yeah. Luckily, I've never done. I think the closest thing I've done is like the marshmallow. What is it? The marshmallow bunny or whatever the heck you call it, where you stuff the marshmallows in your mouth. Like that's the closest thing I've
Oh, okay.
done.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
even that bad. So I've never done any of those like extreme ones. Tide Pods, cinnamon challenge, banana and Sprite. No, thank you. I have no desire to do that. But
Yeah,
I
never again.
but I mean, in terms of the acting world, I mean, whose work do you admire generally, whether it's in the scope of television, film, or even Broadway?
Um, oh man, I was always a big Cameron Diaz fan.
Okay.
That because I think she's like good at doing the funny with the serious.
Yeah.
Um, And I always really liked Martin Scorsese films, so I know those are like complete polar opposites, but like I love a good mob film. So those were like my main ones, like especially when I was going to school and like I wanted to be a director, that was kind of the vibe that I liked was the like mob thriller kind of thing like that.
Okay, so a good
Yeah.
mix, some versatility, and there. I feel like
Yeah.
too with improv that you've learned, you probably have learned probably both ends, like multiverse of like genres and stuff like that. But obviously, you kind of went into it. I don't know. You said that earlier that LA kind of felt chill to you, but you actually left the acting world because you hated the vanity of the scene that you said. So can you kind of
Yeah.
elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean, the stereotype of the people in Hollywood is true, like, and I don't think wrestling can get that way too,
Oh
because
yeah.
all entertainment stems from that, right? Like, it's who you know, it's who you can network with. But I think that the difference between wrestling and like the Hollywood scene, for me at least, was people in wrestling are just a little bit more grounded. And that wasn't always true. Like I met plenty of like really awesome people, especially in the improv scene. Like I think with comedy it was a little bit easier for me, but doing the auditions and stuff, it was like if you don't know anybody, like you're just another person at the call, you know what I mean? So you're in there with a bunch of people that look like you, your insecurities are played on, and then it's just really hard and everyone tells you that. It's like,
Yeah.
everyone knows it's hard, but you don't like once you experience it, you're like, oh, I get it now. And theater was always like that too. Like even when I was auditioning for plays in college and high school and everything, it's like it's politics.
Well, from one political world to another. Um,
Right.
I feel like obviously you ventured from acting into professional wrestling, and obviously besides the physical aspect definitely being more demanding for professional wrestling, I mean depending on what roles you went after anyway, what would you say are maybe the main differences or maybe challenges with breaking into acting versus breaking into wrestling besides obviously the physical aspect?
Right. I think with wrestling, there's a more clear path to like actually doing it. Um, with acting, if you can make your own stuff, but not a lot of people might see it, or you need a platform still. And
Or
with
budget,
with
yeah.
wrestling, yeah, with wrestling, you can come out of training and you're already gonna have shows that you can be on, even if they're small, especially nowadays with YouTube and like IWTV and like all these streaming services for wrestling, people are going to see it no matter how small it is a lot of the time, as long as the promotion's putting
Yeah.
content out, obviously. And GIFs have made the business so much different too. So I think that that's like the biggest thing. Like people are going to see a snippet of wrestling. They're not going to like see a snippet of your acting
Yeah.
work unless you're doing skits, you know?
That's true. That's a good point too. Like I personally love like I love seeing the gifs of like people's either whether it's a move or like a certain character work or like a certain spot, it's all over there. And unless you're like going out of your way to search for like a certain person or like a certain niche, I feel like it's not there for acting. Then again, I'm not on like the acting side of Twitter or social media, so I genuinely don't know. But I definitely
Yeah.
could see that wrestling is kind of more, I don't know how to explain it, more accessible to it, if that makes sense, kind of like you said there
Yeah.
too. And I feel like too, obviously you learned a lot of valuable skills in improv and acting and student films and stuff like that. So there are there any aspects of that theater, improv, or acting that you feel has successfully connected to professional wrestling?
Oh, 100%. Especially like doing any like type of TV, like with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood
Yeah.
and like you know like how to do promos. Like my promos can be a little bit better because I can like think off the top of my head. I don't have to like necessarily write everything down, or like if I have a script, I'm better at memorizing the script than I probably would have been if I didn't do all that acting. Like it's, and dancing helped that too. Like, you know, having to remember stuff like that is a little bit easier because I did that stuff. I'm not sure where I'd be if I didn't, but and then improv is like, you know, you're making an ass out of yourself. That's kind of the point, right? So like I'm I'm not as hurt or as precious about stuff in the ring because of it,
I
you
feel
know?
like too, you have more freedom kind of in the ring, at least on the independent scene. The major promotions are
Yeah.
probably a little bit different because it's more televised and stuff like that. But I feel like definitely there's more creative freedom, whereas in the other world, outside of improv, you're probably kind of restricted to like a script, you know, as to where
Yeah.
wrestling you have more creative freedom. But you kind of left a little bit of that behind you as you left LA altogether last year. So can
Hmm.
you kind of explain what prompted the major decision to move to Orlando? I know you're not, obviously you've moved
Right.
again since then,
Right.
but can you give us a little more sense of your mindset at that time and why you chose Florida as well?
Well, the plan even pre-pandemic for me was to move somewhere. And
Okay.
originally I wanted to move to Chicago. Like this
Yeah.
has been the goal, but my career started taking off more right before the pandemic. So I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't have to move. So I was like, because getting out of Southern California is really, really hard. And there are more eyes on it now, but not really for women.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of guys coming out of there, especially because New Japan is running there. And you're seeing these amazing workers that I've known about for years, and they're finally getting their chance. So, like, I love that for them. But that, you know, even if I was still there, who knows if something like that would have happened for me. So I was like, I always knew I had to kind of get out to be seen a little bit more. Um, and then the pandemic hit. And then I was like, ugh. And California was obviously really strict. Los Angeles
Yes.
County was really,
Yeah.
really strict. So I was like, where can I go that I can still do some stuff? And then Taya, who's one of my really good friends, um, Jake Atlas, who's one of my really good friends, and Alyssa Morano, who is one of my really good friends, were all in Orlando.
I love my good friend Alyssa
Yes.
Marino. That's my girl. Go on.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, Florida's pretty open. Florida doesn't care at all about this. So why don't I go move there? My whole plan was just to be there for a year. and I was like, all my friends live there, all the people that I like spending time
Mhm.
with. So I'll go live there for a year and see what happens. And I was able to work more wrestling wise, so that was kind of the big point. So yeah, that's the main reason I chose Orlando. And then I got to like make new friends there and train with new people, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, tell us more about your experience in Florida. You were there just under a year. So what did your experience look like in wrestling and in daily life too?
So I really actually didn't wrestle a lot in Florida when I was there.
Traveled. Okay.
Yeah, so I was actually working a lot in Texas. Like that was
You okay, to be
mainly,
fair, you've worked a lot in Texas even when you were in California too, as well.
yeah, people actually thought I was like I got a couple emails that were like, "Hey, you're located in Houston, right?" And I'm like,
No.
"No, not even close." But I do wrestle around there a lot. So I was mainly flying out to there, doing a lot of stuff in Colorado, a lot of stuff in Memphis with Championship Wrestling for
Yeah.
Memphis. So I actually only wrestled in Florida, I think like 3 times.
Oh my God.
Like I didn't have a lot of work there. Um, and I was training at Devon's school, but
3D
not like
Academy.
not in his classes.
Mhm.
Like I started training with Marina Shafir,
Yeah.
which was really, really helpful. Like my mat game just got so much better because she's a beast, dude. Like scary, legit scary. And so that was really helpful training with her and Kenny and Chelsea Durden. So we had like a cute little group, and Andy Brown, who I also
Yes.
love. So we had a nice little group that we would train every week, and it was like getting really helpful with that. And then I was just kind of bopping around. Otherwise, I'd never had like a shoot job. Really, I was like able to do a lot off of wrestling, so that was nice.
That's definitely good as kind of the main goal is obviously to kind of like establish yourself. I feel like we all kind of start out at least in wrestling with like shoot jobs and stuff, but it's good you've been able to sustain yourself without it and kind of make it your full-time gig. But obviously since then you did relocate to the West, the
Yeah,
Midwest in Chicago, which is a huge booming wrestling scene itself. Like
yeah.
I know a lot of people are based in Florida, but honestly Chicago is giving it a run for its money, I feel like. So maybe that
Hmm.
had something to do with it. But you said obviously your eyes were kind of always on Chicago. So what made that decision to kind of move again to Chicago specifically?
Well, like I said, I'm from Iowa,
Yeah.
so I have a lot of family around. Like my cousin now lives like 5 minutes from me in
There you go.
Chicago, so I have a good support system here, which is good. And that's also a reason, like if I ever moved back to the Midwest, Chicago was going to be the only place that I would ever want to live because I just love the city. And um, so I was like, oh, I know there's a ton of stuff that I can get to. It's obviously easier access. Like in California, you can't drive anywhere.
Yeah, that
Everything's really
state's
far.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Florida is kind of the same. Like it's kind of far out once
Mhm.
you can get to other places in Florida, but like getting up even to Atlanta is 6 hours. So yeah, so I'm like, I can get places around here and work a lot of different places. So that was the main reason that I decided to make the move. And there's big promotions up here that are helpful.
Yeah, and you're definitely one who appreciates opportunities to kind of branch out and hone your craft as well, which you've definitely been able to do in Chicago. Like I said, that scene is absolutely booming. But can you recall maybe the newest skill, whether it's a move, psychology, a character trait, etc., that you've learned or acquired that you feel has really benefited you?
Oh, well, I have started training with GPA and Laney Luck,
Yes, yes.
and the stuff that they do, like I trained Lucha, but like GPA is a different animal with that stuff. So I he's been really helping to like kind of elevate that. So I've been learning a lot of like cool stuff from him that I'm trying to incorporate in my matches now.
Hmm. So are we gonna see Heather Monroe do some more high flying lucha moves then?
You're gonna see her trying.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you don't knock it until you try it. Exactly. You live and
Yeah.
you learn. Some things don't work, but at least if you're open to trying, that's all that we ask for. So
Exactly.
Heather Monroe, high flying superstar, is gonna be the next billing for you.
Yeah, maybe I'll come off the top rope at some point. Who knows?
Maybe, but I feel like this year too, I feel like you and Ray Lyn obviously officially formed Blonde Force Trauma last year, but 2022 was really your first full year as a tag
Yeah.
team and getting bookings and stuff like that. So what are some of the differences that you've seen within you two as a team between then and now? And like, how do you think that you guys have grown?
I think that we've just kind of learned we both love tag team
Yeah.
wrestling, and we obviously come from tag teams. Like we came up in our own in
Yes.
tag teams, so we kind of have the idea of how it works. But I think the biggest way that we've grown is kind of learning the ins and outs of tag team wrestling and how to make everything happen and all the moving parts, like kind of smoothing all that out so that it all makes sense and we can do some cooler stuff without like worrying about where she doesn't have to worry about where I am. I don't have to worry about where
Yeah.
she is. Like we're kind of like moving a little bit smoother now.
And gaining that chemistry too as a team. You kind of not grew up, but kind of blossomed into obviously another team as well. But I do recall a certain promotional video that you posted earlier this year for BFT proclaiming that you were fighting for tag team wrestling and wanted to
Yeah.
bring change to tag team wrestling. So
Yeah.
what do you think has been maybe the biggest challenge of tag team wrestling that you've seen, or what changes do you want to see made?
Well, I think in general, there's not a lot of all women tag
There's
teams
not.
that, and even when there are, people don't book them together. It's like, oh, we want to book you with this other girl and put you with this other girl. And it's like, well, I literally have a tag team partner. So why would you not put me with her? But I think that's the biggest thing is like there are a lot of tag teams, but not a lot of them are all female tag teams, and a lot of all female tag teams don't get booked.
That's true. I,
So
I'm
it's
I'm thinking of some in my head right now, and there's only literally a handful that I can think of like off the top of my head, to be honest.
that like actually form themselves
Yes.
too, right? Like there's tons that are put together and then they're like, hey,
Hmm.
this kind of works, let's do it. But
Hmm.
like it's very rare that you'll have like two girls be like, we are going to be better together. And like I think like there's plenty on like Impact has some really good
Yeah.
ones, and obviously NWA has some good ones
Yeah.
too. But yeah, there's not a whole lot on the indies going for it,
There's
and
you
that's what we want to do.
guys. There's the Hex. There's there's the Renegade Twins. There's also
Mhm.
a lot of them. All some of them are like just like siblings, so it automatically just gets put
Right.
together. Whereas you and Ray Lyn kind of came organically, and you forged
Mhm.
that friendship. So it's slowly growing. I've seen definitely a rise. I feel like this in the last 2 years, but it's still something that needs a little bit more steam to get the ball rolling. But I think you two are obviously now blossoming, going to be going into your next year as a tag team.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for that. And you've obviously worked with Ray Lyn as a partner and opponent and even training together too. So I feel like maybe what are some of the things that you've learned through either working with Ray Lyn or just as a friend too?
Um, I guess I learned like we've always been compared to each other,
Yes, she was
you
telling me
know?
that when I spoke with her.
Yeah, like people actually think that we're like twins sometimes. And I'm
Hmm.
like, we don't even look alike.
No,
Like we really don't look anything like we have like had similar characters and
you have blonde hair.
gear when we were starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I think a lot of people compared us, but I've genuinely found how similar we are working with her because we have like the exact same mentality. Like it's a very weird thing. I'll be like, I was thinking this, and she was like, I was literally just texting you that. Like we are on the same track. Like these videos that we've been putting out, and we have a couple more. Um, we filmed a bunch recently. Like we just put out the ASPCA one
Yes.
and the political ad, and then we have like some fun ones coming out. Let's just say Kool-Aid Man type
Okay.
situation. And so we have like very similar humor, very similar ideas about how we can like make this work for us basically. And like I think that's the thing that I was like surprised about. I was like, oh, we're literally like same page on everything. Like very rarely are we going to be like, no, I think we should do this. It's always like, yeah, you're right, let's do it.
And I feel like that kind of built-in chemistry just literally helps you guys work together even more, especially if you're on the same page. It's not like forced, and it comes across that way too. You kind of blends together very well as a team too. And it's crazy. We're soon heading into 2023. Obviously, we want BFT to continue to take over the world. But what else do you envision or have in mind for goals for BFT in the new year?
I just want to get us out there more because we have more fun together than we do alone. So we just really want to start getting out there and like getting our name, the name of BFT out there more, and just working more places, getting a chance to work more tag teams, like actual tag teams that we can learn from and that we know we can have good matches with. So that's like kind of the main thing. We just want to learn more about tag team wrestling and become the best.
Now, for you as a singles competitor slash Heather Monroe yourself, do you have any personal or professional goals you yourself are yearning to accomplish next year or in the next couple of years?
I really want to establish myself in the Midwest scene, because, like I said, I went on tour with a band and I did that twice for 6 weeks. So I haven't really like had a chance to do much here, or even like go to. I haven't even gone to like shows because I just haven't been around. Like
Yeah.
I did a couple before I went on the first tour, but like I haven't really been able to go around and be like, "Hello, I'm here." Like I would love to be a part of your show. You know what I mean? So I would really like to establish myself in the scene a little bit more and just keep like I would love to just make a living with wrestling still and like keep trucking along and rise my stock a little bit more, you know?
I feel like too, kind of like you said, you were really on a like really good run prior to the pandemic, but you are not also the only one who kind of suffered along that way and not lowered your stock, but like lowered obviously the opportunities and stuff like that. So kind of coming back, I feel like how is your like mental process been trying to regain that traction and everything?
Yeah, it's been really hard because yeah, I was like top of my game
You were.
doing everything pre-pandemic, and the weird thing, I guess the hardest thing mentally is like nothing changed for me, but the bookings weren't the same. And I know a lot of places couldn't afford to fly me
Yeah.
in, or like they just there was the promotion's not there anymore,
Mhm.
like that kind of stuff. And so the mentally it's hard because you're like, well, what am I doing wrong? Or like, why don't they want me? And so then you kind of start lowering yourself and you get in your head. And wrestling is like 90% mental game. So when once you get there, it's hard to like crawl out of it. And moving around doesn't help either. Like moving out of my established
Yeah.
place, and then I have to go like reestablish myself in these places that might not even know me because California's a whole. And like, you know what I mean? So it's definitely been difficult in that aspect, but the good thing is just through being a part of wrestling for as long as I have and getting to work with the people that I've had the opportunity to work with, I have connections with people, like just other wrestlers in general. So like I can feel at home and like, reach out if I need something. So that's mentally it's very difficult, but I'm like, I think taking the break with the tour has like definitely refreshed me and be like, okay, I'm ready. I'm like ready to like not be as like down in the dumps about stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we sometimes get like swallowed or just like lost in wrestling. It's like it's the only thing. And I feel like it's
Right.
nice to have that break every once in a while, even if it's kind of forced, you know. Sometimes it's hard to
Hmm.
take that break. So you had something obviously to preoccupy you otherwise, and obviously readjust and refocus now going on and hopefully getting more bookings and getting more acquainted with Chicago and stuff like that. But you have,
Hmm.
I would still say, have had a very successful year. And we like to do what's called a watch list feature here on WrestleZone. So, I mean, over the last year or so, maybe two, because it's been a crazy, crazy pandemic
Right.
filled world. Is there a particular match of yours or moment that stands out to you or one you just feel really proud of and why?
Um, I think my one of my favorite matches was with Ray Lyn. Well, actually, I would say the last Shimmer,
Yes.
I got to wrestle Zoe Sky, who is just amazing.
Hmm.
So that was good. And then me and Ray Lyn got to wrestle the Sea Stars for the
Yes.
Shimmer Tag Team
Ashley and
Championships.
Delmy. Yeah.
Yes, and that was, they're established. They know what they're doing. They have chemistry, and that was like mine and Raylynn's. Like we had made promos and stuff, but we hadn't really had a lot of matches together. So like working with them, they helped us so much, like know what's going on, but also I just loved the match. So that would probably be one of the highlights. That was not this past October, but the October
Yes.
before. Yeah, so that whole like weekend was like probably some matches that I was like most
Mhm.
proud of.
I still can't believe it's been over a year since then, and obviously we're heading into 2023. But I feel like too, I've discussed with you in the past, obviously, kind of you've been forced to be a bit creative, and you've had more time to kind of focus and hone in on your character, which you have definitely like conquered and like perfected. I feel like the essence of the Killer Bae, you can just see that blossoming. But I wanted
Thank
to
you.
end today talking about your ring gear. Obviously, you often sports, obviously your fur coat and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That goes in with the Killer Bae essence. But do you
Yes.
have a certain story or source of inspiration behind your favorite piece of ring gear?
Ooh. Um, not not totally. I I make my own gear, except for recently I got some made. But so I kind of just like I'll see stuff, I'll be like scrolling Instagram. I look at a
Okay.
lot of like rave gear and I see that and that's like kind of I get inspired by that.
Hmm.
Um but I just see fabrics and I'm like this is so obnoxious. I need to wear it. And like that's like typically what I see and I'm like yes, this. I want this to like be on me and then I've tried different things but I'm so not a great seamstress, so I like kind of have to stick to stuff, but I do have some new stuff that I'm coming out with that's like way more elaborate that I'm really excited about.
Mm. Can you give us a little hint into your vision for your next pieces of ring gear? Just a little
Um,
nugget.
just a lot. I mean, what else is new? Just a ton of color,
Yeah.
like literally rainbow vomit everywhere, pretty much, and lots of studs.
Now, which of
That's
your fur
new.
coats will you be pairing it with?
I'm not sure. I think I can do my gaudy, like very, very big one.
Okay.
I've been sporting my crop
You
lately,
have.
but it's time to and I had a feather one, but the feather one's definitely better for summertime.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am going to wear a fur coat all day.
I mean, it kind of works too if you're like in a Chicago where it's like cold in winter. So
Yeah,
like
like
duels has it.
yeah. We had a show in Wisconsin this weekend and I just wore my fur coat the whole time because I was like, this is
It
freezing.
works.
There's no
It's
reason for this.
practical and it's part of the show as well.
Exactly. I
I'm
live the gimmick.
I'm curious, how many fur coats do you actually own,
I
including the cropped ones?
I have, I mean, I have at least five.
Okay.
I did, I did donate a couple of
Okay.
them, uh, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't need three of the same fur coat.
Yes, you
Like,
do, in
I
case you
don't.
stain one.
I know. Well, and honestly, like wrestling, like, you think the people aren't bringing that to the back and not putting it in a dirty place half the time?
True.
It's a white coat.
Yeah.
But I have a pink one, I have a green one, I've got the big one, and then I have like two of the crops, and then I think I got rid of the like other ones. I had like three more.
Okay. Fair
But yeah,
enough.
a lot. More than I need.
Do you make those yourself or how do you put those together? Okay.
No. I've thought about it because like I'll see the fabric, like the fur fabric, and I'm like, that would look so cool. And then I'm like, Heather, you don't know how to do that. Like, and my sewing machine is like not a expensive one that could probably
Okay.
handle fur, but I have thought about it. Mostly Amazon though, and then I think Forever 21 is where I got the color ones.
Gosh, Forever 21 is like, man, that was my place. That was my jam. It's just all gone downhill.
I know. I went in there the other day because I wanted to get well actually I'm literally wearing a
It's so cute. I was
sweater
literally just
from
thinking
there.
that. Yeah.
But it was because it was like Black Friday and I got a puffy coat too. I just wanted my winter wear from
Yeah.
there. Like otherwise it's like nothing's gonna fit me probably or like it's gonna look silly on me. But yeah, I uh I normally get those from there. I love that place.
Fair enough. The more you know. The Killer
Yeah.
Bae, Forever 21. Not
Yeah.
sponsored, although we should be, to be honest. But Heather, before we let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on social media and Patreon?
Oh, yes. So Heather is me on all platforms of social media. You might have to put Heather is me 5 for my TikTok. But otherwise you
Someone
can find
had
me on
that?
everything.
Someone had
I
that app?
guess it's a really good name.
It is. Interesting.
So yeah, I but everything else you can find me just regular Heather is me.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Yes, thanks for thinking of me.